Hi, it's Linda Kroll, and I am so thrilled that you're here today because I have a very special guest for you. Marcy Neumann is the HeartShift Coach, and I want to put her name up here so you know who is sharing this video with me. This is the end of my Compassionate Communication Invitation series and the beginning of my HeartCentered Connections series, where I hope to bring to you people who have inspired me, touched my life, and I know are touching other people's lives in very meaningful ways. And I am so thrilled and grateful that Marcy is my first guest. I first met Marcy Neumann about 5 years ago when we were at a training for how to actually get online and help people what we're doing and sharing. And from across the room, across the crowded lunchroom, I saw this beautiful woman. And I was more, not just impressed by her beauty, but the energy with which she greeted people, the energy with which she shared who she was. I didn't even know her name, but I knew I wanted to be her friend. And I'm so grateful that 5 years later, we have maintained both a personal and a professional friendship. And I'm so thrilled to introduce her to you or to share those of you who know her more of what she does. She is a spiritual counselor. She is an energy healer. She is the creator and founder of the HeartShift program. And most of all, she's the most incredible human being who walks her talk in helping people shift their hearts, shift their thoughts, and shift their lives. So Marcy, there's so much more I want to share about you, but I want to give you a chance to say hi and welcome. So glad.
Hi, everybody. I am so thrilled to be here and thrilled to be your first guest in this, what I'm sure is going to be an incredibly powerful series. And I have to just give my own testimonial here for the day that we met, because on that day, there was this instantaneous connection. And what I've come to realize is that those are the connections that we really want to lean into. And so here we are, like Linda said, 5 years later, and the bond has gotten even stronger and stronger. And we realize we actually share the same heart, don't we?
It's all one. Everybody's heart is connected.
And I'm going to say forgiveness is impossible without having self-love. And self-love is the precursor to all forgiveness. Because when we recognize that forgiveness is really this gift to ourselves, we begin to understand the process from a completely different perspective. And that's really what is necessary in order for us to get to the other side of the process. And I don't know about you, Linda, but this is what I found so often with people, is that they go in with the best intentions, but because they don't really have the process, they don't really know the process, and it's also quite uncomfortable at times, that they don't allow themselves the grace to get to the other side of it. And getting to the other side of that forgiveness process is everything, because it's what creates this incredible energy of freedom. And what is that freedom good for? It's there, finally accessible for us to move on, to create new opportunities, to answer other possibilities and opportunities that come into our lives, and also to develop greater, deeper, more intimate relationships. Because as long as we are holding on to this energy connected to the past, we cannot move forwards. So what I've also come to recognize is that, our higher self is constantly at work. So it's constantly creating these opportunities for us to deal with this head on, heart on, right? So until we surrender and we just say uncle and say, okay, I'm ready, I'm going to finally get rid of this, we just stay stuck in the same old energy. And what we know is that same old energy can only produce the same old thing.
Right.
So we become so powerful in this forgiveness process.
And when you say, excuse me, we say uncle, we've been talking all week about compassionate communication, and I talk about having a higher self where we're calm, clear, and compassionate, that true self, high self you're talking about, and how our parts, the ones we exile or manage with or get extreme with, get in the way. All those ego parts, all the ways we think we have to be. So our higher self is not saying uncle. Our ego is saying uncle.
Exactly.
The one that has all those limiting thoughts and beliefs and judgments and expectations and needs to be in control. Those are the parts of us that say uncle. And when those parts say uncle and relax into the energy of our higher self, there is an entirely different flow, both within yourself for all your parts, and also that you emanate out from you so that you're this beacon of light and channel of love in everything you do.
That's right. And as I said before, it's the only avenue to be able to really embrace all of the new possibilities and opportunities that you're so yearning for in your life. But somehow, like a dog chasing its tail, you haven't quite been able to get there. And so what we've discovered is that this release that comes from, and again, I'm going to use that word surrender because I think it's so powerful.
It is.
When we surrender to just what is, right? And we stop fighting and we allow our higher self to direct the entire process, then, as you said, we're really in the flow. And that's what we're all here looking to achieve.
And we're also
possible.
And we're sharing this live with people. So Jake, I'm going to put your comment up.
Hi, Jake.
Jake says, tuning in. Wow, I see a little Shirley MacLaine in you, Marcy.
That's right, Jake.
Terrific program. Yep,
Thanks.
I do too. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for being here, Jake. But I wanted to let you know that we're here live and we're here to take your comments and your questions and really not just talk about theory, but help yourself in any relationship that you have. So if you have a relationship right now that you're struggling in, it could be with your parents, it could be with your children, it could be with a friend or a coworker, it could be with a partner or a spouse, it could be with an ex-spouse. And in some cases, it can even be someone who's no longer living. You could still have the energy that you're carrying because you're not able to forgive someone who's passed on. And I know we're saving that for a little later in the program, but it's across the board. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself, and learning how to do it and learning how to let go of the old energies so that you can be present, as Marcy says, in present time and not project all the old wounds into your future. The more you do that, the more happiness you're going to have. So Marcy, we talked a little bit before about blocks to forgiveness. What do you think is a block to forgiveness? Why can't people forgive?
I think a lot of times that there is this connection between how a person defines themselves or sees themselves and this energy that they haven't been able to give up from the past. So in other words, particularly if someone has been holding on to this energy, hasn't released it, it's unforgiven, it becomes a conditioning. Right? It becomes a conditioning pattern in the way that they think, in the way that they see, in their perspective on life. And that conditioning only gets stronger and stronger and stronger to the point where fear now is associated with giving up that belief system that's now been created from the conditioning. So what happens is rather than going through life exactly as we're meant to be, right? Completely expansive so that this creative life force can extend itself through us. We contract and we get smaller and smaller and smaller. And we hemorrhage so much energy because we have to feed that false belief. We have to feed the conditioning in order to keep it alive. So if you're feeding that energy, it's not possible for you to be creating something new from this very same energy because you can't divide it. You know, there's that saying, we can't follow two masters. And so when we are fully in the present and we have released all of that energy associated with the past, then we are present to create. And by the way, this energy that we're really referring to is the energy of love. Right. And it's not romantic love that we're referring to here. This is the universal love. It's the other name for creative life force energy. So it's created all things in the universe, including us. But the interesting thing to remember here is that it's the only energy that has both the capability and the potential and possibility to create. So if you're not feeding that energy, you cannot be in the creative process. Then you start to experience life from this place of being reactive instead of proactive, because you don't have access to that energy. So this is an essential aspect of living, so that we're constantly in that process of creating our happiness, our health, our fulfillment, our joy, our peace, and of course, that great big love that we all want to experience. But it requires the freedom of that energy to be available to us to do so.
Fabulous. And all week, I've been talking about compassionate communication, and the 4 tenets of compassionate communication are—
I love these, by the way.
Thank you. Are to connect to your best self. And Marcy just described what that self energy is like. It's expansive, it's calm, it's compassionate, it's pure love. So connect to that, even though you have some limiting beliefs. And the second part is you let go of those limiting beliefs, those judgments, those stories that you keep telling yourself that kept you mired in the past. Then you unburden pain from the past. And that's really important. I talked about that yesterday. It's really about going back to those wounded parts of ourselves, our inner child, or those times in our life when we've been hurt. And instead of looking for someone outside of ourselves to fix it, we bring that universal love to ourselves. And we forgive ourselves for choices that we've made or things we did or didn't do. And as we forgive ourselves, then that flow begins to happen. And instead of living in our head with all of our judgmental ego parts, and the ways we manage and get extreme, what happens is we drop down into our heart. And that's why Marcy is the HeartShift Coach. That's why I talk about heart-centered connections, because the love that's there is already there, and you were born with it. And you're born a light, you're born love, and then some things happen. I already said it's like a light bulb, and then cloth covers your light, and you look down and you don't see it anymore. But as you let go, like Marcy says, of all the beliefs that you've held on to, as you unburden the pain from your past by acknowledging it or getting counseling or getting coaching, as you move through that, you're moving back to that essential self that is who you are. So Marcy, tell us some more about your program, for instance. You've got a new program coming up and it's available. We're going to come back and talk some more, but I want to make sure I get some information about the program that you have.
So just a little history. I've been in this work now for nearly 45 years. Okay, it started back in the 70s, and I know I'm aging myself, but that's okay. I'm very proud of it, actually, because as a pioneer in this field, it has given me the most incredible opportunities to really learn about relationship and learn about love and learn about who we are when we really show up for ourselves. And this has taken place both in the medical field as well as in the many different aspects of the healing of hearts that I've been involved in all these years. And the one thing that came to my attention is that people want to forgive, right? When we get right down to the core of it. Yes, sure, there's often this anger or resentment or pain that they're carrying around, as you spoke of a moment ago. But the truth is they really want to let it go because it feels miserable. And they know they're miserable. And at the end of the day, it's really a call for love. And people everywhere, regardless of the circumstance, regardless of how it looks to the outside, they want to be loved and they want to be able to be love. They want to be that fullest expression of themselves. But what I realized was the hang up is that even though everybody wanted to do this, they didn't know how. Okay? We've been taught from the time we were children, you must forgive, say you forgive. Okay, I can say that, but it doesn't feel that way. And I don't even know what you're talking about, but I'll say it just to get out of trouble, right? And I think in my mind, I can actually still see these fingers sort of wagging at me and say, forgive your brother or sister and move on. But I didn't know how. And most people don't know how. Most people think that they can just snap their fingers, talk themselves out of the anger and resentment and pain. But it's a process, because this energy that has been held onto, that is been controlling you, has a frequency. It has a vibrational frequency. It is an energy all of its own. And so we need to work energetically to release that energy and transform it so that it's now filled with all of that love once again, and it's accessible to us to manifest. So I decided that how I could best be of service was to put this processing in a form where people can follow it, regardless of the aspect of themselves that they are forgiving or forgiving others. And so I created the Forgive to Live Masterclass, and it's an amazing program. I have just gotten so much incredible feedback, and people really have been reporting miraculous results because finally they have something that's tangible. It's a process to go through, and it will take them all the way to the other side so that they can experience that freedom, experience really what it feels like to be that light that you talked about, and to be set free and finally start to live life as we're meant to and as we deserve to. I mean, that's why we're here. So it's really been an incredible experience, both for me and for the people that I've been working with.
And Jake also said something that what you're saying is very empowering, that he sees a lot of similarities in mindfulness and the tools of forgiveness in the proactive versus reactive vantage point. So thanks for sharing that, Jake. Yes, when we're in self, we can respond instead of react in that fight flight mode.
That's right.
We stay in non-forgiveness, even though it feels good, or it doesn't feel good rather, because we think we need to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
In other words, if you're in a conflict with your partner and they've hurt you before, then what happens is you've learned how to build walls around your heart. You've learned how to defend yourself. You've learned how to put on filters where which you judge your partner as he always does this or she never does that. And you walk around defended. And even though it's a burden, you feel it protects you. It's your way of managing or defending those exiled feelings of sadness and hurt. But the difference is, it's not really about that you don't trust the other person not to hurt you. It's really, you don't realize that you can trust yourself not to be hurt again. Because when you're coming from your higher self, you can set boundaries. You can say what you want and need. And you can forgive and form a healthy relationship. You don't even have to reconnect with somebody to forgive them, because forgiveness is really setting yourself free. And what Marcy's talking about the energy of constriction or the walls or the judgments or the rehashing of all the stories you've told yourself and are telling yourself, let's all take a deep breath. Because that's what forgiveness is like.
Yeah.
Forgiveness is making a decision to let that all go and go back to the essence of who you truly are at your core.
That's
and in her Forgive to Live Master Program that you can find on HeartShiftCoach.com, Marcy's going to help you energetically learn how to do that. And go ahead, Marcy.
No, and I was just going to say also, what I think is so powerful with the program as well is that it can be used for any situation. It's applicable under every circumstance, even if you think it's something small. And this is something we haven't really touched on yet, but I'd like to jump in because, you know, often we think that forgiveness is something that we need to do right for these great, big, huge traumas that we've had in our lives, or, as you said, relationships that have gone awry, or how we've experienced our childhood. And yes, by all means, we need to get through those big things. But what I've also discovered is that forgiveness is something that we need to be engaged in 24/7.
Right.
Because there is always all of this information that's coming forward that gives us the choice. We can either feed that energy of pain and trauma and constriction, or we can feed the energy of becoming expansive and open and flexible. And something that I think is so really poignant here is for us to remember that life happens when we're flexible. Okay, death happens when we become inflexible, right? We become dry, brittle, we break easily. And so we need to remain flexible. And what that requires is that we continually let go of this energy that becomes so weighted and such a burden on us. So it can be the smallest thing. But the moment that we start to create this conscious awareness about how we're feeling, how things are affecting us, we can right in that moment instantaneously shift, pivot, and this is what I call the heart shift, pivot into a different direction where we're actually feeding the energy that has the capability of creating what it is that we say we want to experience.
Which is hopefully more peace, love, and joy.
Happiness and health. You know, our health is so connected to this as well, because we're energy beings. And so all this accumulation of density really has an effect on us.
So I'm putting up a sign that says, forgive everyone, starting with yourself. And remember, it's an inside job. It's a 24/7 job, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. But I wanted to just take a moment to talk to people who may be in relationships, especially married or coupled relationships, where forgiveness doesn't seem possible. And because my compassionate mediation program is starting, I wanted to talk about the compassionate mediation toolkit that people can get right now. And what you can do is go to cmtoolkit.com, and it offers a free chapter of my book on compassionate mediation and talks about how you can come from your higher self, how you can help your parts heal, how you can assess your relationship. And the video series that goes along in the toolkit talks about all the different ways to get to self, to be in self, to share your higher self, and eventually to forgive yourself first so that you can forgive everybody else you know. And I know that Marcy has started a new podcast. So we've got, just so I can remind people, we've got the HeartShiftCoach.com to get Marcy's program on forgiveness. We've got the free compassionate mediation toolkit to help people in relationships either add passion to their marriage or compassion to their divorce. And going along with the whole, there's one other thought you had, Marcy, I wanted to ask you. There was one action to activate self-love, forgiveness, and manifest your dreams. What's that one action?
The one action, I believe, is first of all, the willingness to do this, right? To align your actions with what it is that you're looking to achieve. So, you know, earlier I had said that forgiveness is an energy, and it's a dense, forgiveness itself is the energy of light, but unforgiven energy is dense. So one of the things that I have found is a great positive influence energetically is when we go about the exercise of becoming what I call a love detective. So you get a little notebook and, you know, you start to see yourself as this detective who's collecting data about love. And the moment that you start to do that, it's going to show up everywhere. But it'll show up in very subtle ways. Subtle ways like you'll find yourself smiling as you overhear a conversation, or you see something, or you listen to a song that gets your foot tapping. And what we're looking for is softness. Softness and flexibility are one and the same. All right, so you have to become soft. And so the more data that you collect about what makes you feel softer, the more light that you're going to feel is accessible to you. And you're going to want to feed that more and more and more, because suddenly you start to feel better. And so what we're doing in this moment is a huge act of self-love. We're setting the foundation or the roadmap for forgiveness so you can really let go of it. But we're also establishing a way of life, okay, where rather than being caught up with all of the muck, okay, that constantly is calling to us and distracting us and creating all kinds of smoke screens, that we have an ability to come back to our true nature, as you described before. And it's so simple. And the laws of energy just fully support us in this, because the law of attraction promises us that whatever we put our focus on is going to expand. So at the end of the day, that unforgiven energy, right, is really a call for love. So we start to answer the call with what it needs and what it's asking for. And love, as I said, it shows up in many different ways. And the more that you pay attention to how it's showing up in your life, the more it's going to deliver itself to you, until you find yourself in this place of just having this energy of love, finally connecting and connecting straight into your heart.
I love what you said about being a love detective. And one of our comments.
Put your hat on.
That's right. Deborah says, I'm going to post it. Deborah says that, thank you for this, as it truly supports my path of self-acceptance and authenticity. And
it sure
thank
does.
you, Deborah, because that is a reminder that when you're coming from yourself, that is your most authentic energy, to truly listen to the message of your soul, truly listen to the message of your heart, and speak from that. You can speak for all of your parts. In fact, when you said answer your calling, I've often told myself, I want to answer the call, but I want to make sure who's calling, my ego or my spirit. Because when our egos are calling, we get into all those conflicted relationships.
Sure.
And when our spirit calls, we can, as Marcy says, really manifest our dreams. And the willingness on her one action to activate self-love, forgiveness, and manifest your dreams, Marcy said, is the willingness, setting the intention to do all that. And Marcy's got a new podcast. We're almost out of time. I want to make sure Marcy's talking about her podcast. Please share what you're doing. I'm going to even write it down as we're talking so I can put it on. What's it called?
So you are going to be able to find this at HeartShiftCoach.com. And by the way, there's no the. It's HeartShiftCoach.com, and it'll be launched actually by the end of the week. We have a few little glitches because of Hurricane Irma, but it's going to be coming up. And it is just packed full of so much information and wonderful people that I've interviewed. Linda, of course, is there. And we're talking about all the things that are really essential for creating life so that we can all live it full on and get what we want and need from it. And of course, be able to give what we came here to give, because it's another one of those laws of the universe, giving and receiving, equal in importance. Not one part is greater or lesser than the other. So we actually step into our power. So HeartShiftCoach.com. And there's lots of new information that will be there as well. And I really invite you to also follow me on Facebook, HeartShift Coach. And let's do this. We're all in it together. So let's do it with great intention and clarity, and coming from the place within us that's so powerful and really has the ability to love, and of course, for us to be loved.
Thank you, Marcy. And that was so beautifully put. And only because we're running out of time, I wanted to remind you that what you can do right now is to take a deep breath and think about somebody that you've had trouble forgiving or are having trouble forgiving. Mm-hmm. And just give yourself permission to reboot or renew, or I've been talking all week about starting over. Give yourself permission to start over. See if you can let go of the past. See if you can not project into the future. And it isn't easy to do on your own. So check into Marcy's HeartShift program. Check out the Compassionate Mediation Toolkit. Join me at lindakroll.com for any free gifts that help you on that path. And come back. I have a group on Facebook, HeartCentered Connections. Join us there. And I think the weekly calls are going to be called HeartCentered Connections because truly, we are all one heart. We are all one. And when we come from that knowing that from our deepest soul, we have all that we need to be safe in this world and be the light and love that we are, I just want to invite you to step right into that energy and be that in your life right now. So Marcy, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, all of you who are being here. My daughter just put up hearts. Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
Her. But I love you, darling. I love both my girls and all my family. And even though they think I'm crazy sometimes to be doing this online, it's really to share everything that I've gained from all my years, both in education and experience, and to share the people that I meet along my path who have inspired me like Marcy has, and share all that wisdom and all that love and all that light. So from our hearts to yours, from Marcy and mine. Marcy, anything more you want to say before we go?
Forgive to live.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah.
Forgive to live. Bless you all. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to my daughters for showing up too. And I love you. Thanks, Marcy. I'll see you soon.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.